President Trump vows action on border security in his efforts to stop illegal immigration.
I said I was going to close the border. It's gotten so bad. I said, we're closing the border. We have to take care of ourselves.
35 years on this border, I'm worried, really worried where this country is going. Where the heck is Congress?
A suspect wanted for the shooting of a Texas state trooper is in custody. The trooper is fighting for his life following surgery for 2 bullet wounds.
Among progressives in the United States is a certain kind of rigidity. The overall effort and movement weakens.
How important is it to you to see the president's tax returns?
It's not really important.
I believe he should show.
Not at all.
Really important.
Hold on, did I hear a whistle? Wow. We got a foul call. You got all 3. Virginia is heading to its first ever national championship game.
Good morning, Jed.
Happy 6 a.m.
Happy 6 a.m.
Happy 6 a.m., but it's not so happy.
Yeah.
A story that earlier this week I was in Texas, in the Edinburgh, Texas area, and that is why we start this morning with a Fox News alert. A Texas state trooper is fighting for his life after being shot near the U.S.-Mexico border overnight.
The suspected shooter is in custody after an all-out manhunt.
Aisha Hasni is in our newsroom with the latest. Aisha, good morning.
Good morning. Yes, that officer has not been named just yet, but Texas State Police say he was shot twice Saturday night while he was investigating a car crash. Now, we don't know where those bullets hit him, but he isn't stable yet. As there was a massive manhunt for him after the officer was shot, with law enforcement agencies sharing his picture all over social media. He was taken into custody from the Texas Department of Public Safety that Godinez is a U.S. citizen. He is a resident of Edinburgh. Griff, Jed, Pete.
Aisha, thank you.
Thanks
very
very
much.
much. Appreciate it.
Reminds you the job they do on or near the border or anywhere with law enforcement incurs a ton of risk. So
Yeah.
We're thinking about them today.
That's why they call it the thin blue line.
Absolutely.
Every day.
All right. Well, the president yesterday reacting to ongoing developments on the border, and he took to Twitter, as he often does, talking about the threats that are being faced at the southern border. This is what he had to say. He talked about the redeployment of more agents to the border. He said, we've redeployed 750 agents at the southern border, specific ports of entry, in order to help with the large-scale surge of illegal migrants trying to make their way into the United States. This will cause traffic and commercial delays until such time as Mexico is able to use its powerful common sense immigration laws to stop illegals from coming through Mexico into the U.S. and removing them back to their country of origin until Mexico cleans up this ridiculous and massive migration. We will be focusing on border security, not ports of entry. And Griff, yesterday we were talking a lot about he's giving Mexico a chance to address this, but once again doubling down, we wonder whether or not they will.
Well, you have a new president of Mexico, López Obrador, and he came in very pro-immigrant, and now he seems to have realized the situation, the seriousness of it, the emergency, the crisis, whatever you want to call it, and so he's saying, listen, we got to do some more, so we'll see where that goes. What's interesting, though, is when I was talking to President Trump, I said, do you feel like the Democrats are finally coming around to realize this is a crisis any way you cut it? Well, it doesn't appear the Democrats are there yet, and of course that's what he told us. However, the media seems that they may be coming around a little bit if you look at some of the headlines. Now, this is the Washington Post. It reads this: as Trump wrestles with immigration, experts say his policies have made things worse. Politico: yes, there's a crisis on the border, and it's Trump's fault.
Oh, so wait, let me get this straight. First, there was no crisis. It was manufactured. Now there's a crisis, and it's all Trump's fault. Do I have
Correct.
that right?
You have that correct.
Okay, so I'm following this well. Thank you, media, for clarifying that. I think it's important to note, too, that Trump has made headway with Mexico, and also, and I said this yesterday, giving credit where it's due, because even though it's been just a few days, having some support from that side, it shows the willingness of the president to say, you know what, I took a tough stand. I did threaten to close the border. People pay attention to that. When you play tough, sometimes people say, you know what, he's not kidding around. And I think it's important to show, that he appreciates that.
And it's a tough spot for him, because when you make the border your emphasis, but your laws haven't caught up to that emphasis, then you create an environment where people rush for the border to get in while they still can before those laws change. And there was a Sheriff Mark Daniels, how do you pronounce that county?
Daniels, yeah.
Daniels.
Cochise County.
Cochise County, Arizona, says that after working the border for 3.5 decades, he's paying close attention. Watch.
35 years on this border, I'm worried. I'm really worried where this country is going and where we're at. You know, I'm worried about our communities. I'm worried about our families. I'm worried about Americans. I'm also worried about CBP, the Border Patrol agents, our HSI, all the folks and the sheriffs that are standing united with them that are watching this crisis that's not being solved, it's not being taken care of. And the support from our president, we truly appreciate that. But where the heck is Congress? Why is Congress not stepping into this? Because we do.
Where is Congress? How about this? Where is, the Democrats? I mean, look, the media is admitting that there is a crisis, but yet it's President Trump's fault. But where is the media? Where are my colleagues saying that the Democrats are refusing to admit it? You're not going to see that story, I don't think.
You have to hold Republicans accountable too, though, because this went on for so long and no one sat down and really addressed this. This is a Republican problem, a Democrat problem. Sure, you have President Trump that made this a key issue of his campaign and is trying to fulfill a campaign promise, but that is President Trump. That you cannot give the entire Republican Party and say they've been actively trying to address this immigration issue properly for years, because they didn't. And so you have to hold both parties accountable. They both have to come to the table and they have to assist the president in securing the border and supporting these Border Patrol agents and these sheriffs and these people who are working so hard and don't understand. You feel their energy that they don't understand why they're not getting the support that they need to protect the country.
No, it's true. And Griff, have you met a Border Patrol chief or sheriff that doesn't want tighter conditions on the border?
Not a single one. Not a single one. But you know what else? I also haven't met a Democrat that's willing to admit that there is a crisis. And speaking of Democrats, a very popular one, you may remember him, President Obama, is now weighing in.
We have not heard from him in a while.
He's not talking about the border, but he's talking about what's happening in his own party. Here is President Obama speaking out in Berlin, talking about his own party, progressives, the left, going too far.
One of the things I do worry about sometimes among progressives in the United States, maybe it's true here as well, is a certain kind of rigidity where we say, I'm sorry, this is how it's going to be, and then we start sometimes creating what's called a circular firing squad, where you start shooting at your allies because one of them is straying from purity on the issues. And when that happens, typically the overall effort and movement weakens.
Oh, I wonder who he's alluding to there.
It's also very easy to talk about unifying and let's get everybody on the same page when you're no longer a politician and you don't have to duke out those fights, with the Senate, with the House of Representatives to get stuff done.
That's true. Joe Biden's been going through a lot for a week. No comment from the Obama team in support of the former vice president. To me, that's interesting.
Of course.
He could have come out and said, I know Joe Biden, he's a great guy, this stuff. Silence. And then he speaks out. I mean, I don't know if that's a shot at the Comrade Cortez or the other newcomers in the House who are demanding pure. Not sure, but
I love that Obama.
I don't know what that does.
He sees a party that is moving so far to the left that it's going to become this, really negative thing going into a primary. The Republicans did in 2016. However, your point is a valid one. I know I was understating it there a little bit, but here's the important thing. If President Obama would have gone on stage and endorsed Joe Biden, it would have cleared the field. He would have put behind him the whole hugging problem, and it would have shifted the trajectory. So here he is criticizing that they're shooting at each other and sniping at each other, but yet because he doesn't want to weigh in a primary, he could have really put the party back on a central Democratic track, and he didn't.
Go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, President Obama is now your centrist in the Democratic Party. Somehow. Right. It's so funny. Just a few years ago, you're talking about how he's this far-left community organizer, and now even he's looking at his own party, and he's like, whoa, hold on a second.
Such a great
You guys got to move to the middle a little bit. It's great stuff.
But put yourself in his shoes. He wants Democrats to talk about extending Obamacare, extending the legacy of his policies that he put through in 2 terms. Instead, they're talking about things that
way past what he did.
Talk about and cow farts and these other things, and he doesn't want that.
All right, well, we got some headlines for you to follow that up. Great line, Griff. An ex-Democratic staffer pleads guilty to doxing Republicans during the Brett Kavanaugh hearing. Jackson Costco admitted to adding phone numbers and home addresses to the Wikipedia pages of 5 Republican senators. He also admitted to breaking into Senator Maggie Hassan's office to get sensitive information. He's looking at 4 to 5 years in prison. National Security Advisor John Bolton warning Cuba sanctions are just the beginning if it continues to support disputed Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Bolton tweeting in part, the U.S. is prepared to hold accountable any country or company that facilitates the repression of the Venezuelan people. His comments come amid new sanctions on companies illegally shipping oil from Venezuela to Cuba.
And now to the Final Four. Texas Tech advances to its first ever national title game, beating Michigan State 61-51. Fans go wild, flooding streets, even flipping cars. It's a first for Texas Tech. And Virginia squeaks past Auburn thanks to a controversial foul call with less than a second to go. Watch.
Looking. It's Guy from the corner for the win. Hold on. Did I hear a whistle? Wow. We got a foul call.
1.5 seconds left. He got the shot up. They called the foul. They were down 2. He goes to the free throw line, and Kyle Guy drains 3 free throws, leading Virginia to a 63-62 win. They'll play Texas Tech for the national title game. An amazing game.
Wow, I wish I would have been there, really.
Really?
Because you were.
I was there. Yeah, I did.
Pete went to the game.
I did. It was a last-minute thing. That was me and my dad and my 2 oldest boys. And last-minute decision. It was in my hometown of Minneapolis. And my boys both love Virginia. I don't know why.
You're not telling the story. Let me tell the story quickly. Pete gets a phone call. He's talking to his boys on the way home after the show yesterday. He buys tickets for his father and sons to go to the game. And Gunner, his oldest son, says to him, "Dad, I wish you could be there." What does Pete do? Pick up the phone, call the airline, and got a ticket there and made it back in time. It's a great game. It was totally a foul, by the way. I'll explain that later.
It was.
But it's also Father of the Year award today goes to Pete.
No Father of the Year award. Just was a fun moment, and the kids, it was a nail biter all the way, and they pulled it out.
It was nosebleed seats, by the way. You couldn't tell it was
nosebleed. I didn't know it was a foul in the moment. Yeah. Really? No, we were like, oh, the game's over. Virginia lost. Oh, it's a foul.
It's also, by the way, talk about nerves of steel. Kyle Guy drains 2 on the line with 0.6 seconds. The other team calls a timeout. Then he's got to go back.
You guys are going to have to explain this to me.
I love it. What it takes to make those free throws, Jed. I just got to tell you. All right, in the veins.
But we must move on. The media claiming for months that our economy is approaching a decline. Does the strong March jobs report end that narrative for good?
Since the election, we've created more than 5.5 million new jobs, including 600,000 manufacturing jobs, things that nobody would have allowed me to say on the campaign trail. They would have said, oh, he exaggerates.
That was the president yesterday. Well, many in the media claiming for months that our economy was probably headed for a decline. There's no way the good times could keep rolling, but did a solid March jobs report just reject that narrative?
Susan Lee with Fox Business joins us now to explain. Welcome, Susan.
Good morning to you on this Sunday. I would agree. I mean, look at the wage growth that we saw. We haven't seen 3% wage growth in a decade. So congratulations, Americans. You are earning basically the average we've seen in 30 years, finally, after 10 years of not seeing it. And people say that the jobs market is so tight, so strong, we might even get to 4% wage growth, which is great for Americans because that's so much higher than how much faster inflation is, which is how prices go up, right? So if you're making more than prices are going up, you're feeling wealthier, you're spending more, and that drives the U.S. economy.
Why was there so much pessimism?
Yeah, you know, because we saw this really ugly February where we saw only 33,000 jobs that were created. Also, the market jitters back in December when the stock market dropped 20%, and people are thinking, when does that filter in to the real economy, and do people stop spending? So there were some concerns, but I would say that basically this jobs report was really necessary to show them, to alleviate these recessionary calls out there that it's okay. We're creating 180,000 jobs on average in the first 3 months of this year. Yes, less than 2018, but pretty much in line with 2017. So things are okay at this point. And I would say probably on a wage basis, it's actually better than okay, because you're actually making more than 4% according to the Federal Reserve with the aging population and the aging workforce. So older people are leaving. Younger people, actually, that's when you see your largest and fastest wage growth. So actually, real wages are going up faster than 3%, which is very encouraging for spending in the U.S. economy.
You know, if you look at presidents' average unemployment rate for the first 26 months of their presidencies, President Trump, 4.1%, President Obama, 9.5%, Bush, 5.4%, Clinton, 6.4%, Reagan, 8.9%. When you look at, and the list goes on and on, if you look at those numbers, it looks like President Trump is really doing quite well. And you have to wonder, are people predicting sometimes a pessimistic outlook because they are hopeful of that? Or some of the media saying, you know what, I want this president to not do as well when it comes to economic numbers, because that was one of the reasons people voted for him and had such confidence in him. Is that why? Is this just like...
A lot of his wins are being ignored, and he's absolutely right about manufacturing, because when he was on the campaign trail, people were thinking, come on, manufacturing, that's going to China, to these low-cost countries. Manufacturing is booming, and so is construction. Manufacturing jobs saw the longest winning streak in terms of job ads since the 1990s. Last year, over 200,000 manufacturing jobs were created. That's the most in 20 years. Wow. And also, don't forget that we have manufacturing wages also going up as well. So is construction. You have home building at $1.2 million a month. That's twice what it was in 2009.
Yeah. The wage growth is so encouraging.
Yes.
Such an amazing point.
That's
Susan,
right.
thank you very
Thanks
much.
so much. Appreciate it.
All right, well, the crisis at our border is at a breaking point. So how did we get here?
We look at the broken immigration laws and loopholes and how we can fix them. Coming up next.
Sunday Times reporting UK and US officials have been planning a second state visit since late last year. The Queen is expected to formally invite the president in the coming days. The visit will likely coincide with the 75th anniversary of D-Day in June. And Tuesday is election day for Israel Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. On Saturday, he vowed to annex Jewish settlements in the West Bank. If he wins re-election for the 5th time, the policy shift is a final push to rally voters in a seemingly tight race. Griff, over to you.
Pete, thanks. As the border crisis reaches a breaking point, President Trump calls for an end to the laws and loopholes creating it.
You catch them, and you release them. A visa lottery, a lottery. Countries, a lottery. You pick out a name. And the asylum program is a scam. How stupid can we be to put up with this?
So how do we get to this point? There is a history here, and here to break it down is the Center for Immigration Studies resident fellow in law and policy, Andrew Arthur. Andrew, good morning to you.
Good morning, Griff. Thank you for having me.
We've heard so much about this. A president, we hear Border Patrol officials have told me that, but let's break this down. First and foremost is catch and release. Tell me what this is and why it matters.
Catch and release is a policy under which aliens who are apprehended entering the United States illegally are quickly freed and allowed to go into the interior of the United States, where they may wait for up to 8 years for their hearings to occur. So basically, they get a free pass in the United States and can stay here indefinitely.
Andrew, what really stuns people is that in the last 3 months, roughly 125,000 migrant family units have been released into the U.S., into the fabric of our communities, and it is because of what we hear, what's called the Flores Settlement. Explain.
The Flores Settlement Agreement was signed by Janet Reno back in 1997. In 2016, the Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit, interpreting that then 19-year-old a settlement agreement, said no alien minor could be detained by DHS for more than 20 days. Because we don't separate parents from families or from children, that means that the parents get released after 20 days. They know this throughout Guatemala. We've seen reporting in the New York Times, Washington Post about this. So we're seeing primarily men show up with children, knowing that they're going to get released into the United States within 20 days, where they can go and work and make 10 times the wages here that they make back home.
And now also the claiming of asylum, which seems to be the majority of the people coming here. Explain exactly what that is and what they're trying to do.
Most aliens who are apprehended entering illegally along the border are supposed to be subject to something called expedited removal, where we quickly remove them from the United States. But there's an exception called credible fear. If you assert that you want to apply for asylum or you have a fear of being sent back home, then you're put in front of an asylum officer where you have an 89% chance, if a decision is reached, of actually being found to have credible fear. You're placed in removal proceedings, and again, you're likely released into the United States. Back in 2011, about 1% of all people claim credible fear. Last year, it was 18% of people who claimed credible fear.
Arthur, we hear visa lottery and chain migration. What are those?
Visa lottery is a program that allows 50,000 aliens from countries from which we don't traditionally receive a large number of aliens to apply for a visa. They don't have to have any ties to the United States. They don't have to have that many skills or that much education. And basically, it's a free pass into the United States for this population of people. Saifullah Saipov, the fellow who's been charged with killing 8 people on a bike path in New York City in Halloween 2017, he got in through the visa lottery. Not a surprise, because a lot of the countries from which terrorists come are major lottery winners.
And chain migration, very quickly?
Chain migration is a process by which family members in the United States can petition for other family members to come to the United States. About 61% of all immigrants to the United States in the last 35 years entered this way. They don't have to have any skills or abilities. They just have to have a family member.
Andrew, Arthur, thank you very much for breaking it down. We'll see if Congress gets anything done in changing some of those laws. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Griff.
All right. Well, Democrats want to see President Trump's tax returns, but do the American people even care? I hit the streets to find out.
I'm not so concerned with his tax returns. I'm more concerned with how effective he is in this country.
I think it's very important. Transparency. All he's talking about is being real.
Not at all. Really important.
The last 8 presidents have released their tax forms. And we think here that there is a mechanism where these forms could be reviewed in a nonpartisan basis, and then we would have a chance to decide from there what to do with them.
I got elected. They elected me. Now they keep going. I'm under audit. When you're under audit, you don't do it.
Now, that's the chairman, Neil, of the House Ways and Means Committee, the most powerful committee in the House of Representatives, saying that he wants to see those tax returns.
And you actually hit the streets of New York. You got out there to find out how people really feel about this issue. Do they care? Do they not care?
Yeah, I mean, they're still asking.
Yeah, what'd you find?
Well, I don't know. Let's watch. Trump's taxes. How important is it to you to see the president's tax returns? It's not really important.
Definitely he should show them. It's transparency.
I'm not so concerned with his tax returns. I'm more concerned with how effective he is in this country.
I think it's very important. Transparency. All he's talking about is being real.
Not at all. Really important.
You would like to see it? Yeah, why not? Do you care about seeing President Trump's tax returns?
No. I want to see my tax return.
Do you think he should show?
Yes, I believe he should show.
At this point, I'm just so sick of all the political game going on right now from both sides of the aisle that I just tune it in and out at this point.
Just out of curiosity, I would want to see, but I think what they're doing is wrong.
There's so much bad about him. It's like not a big story.
It's not constitutionally required.
That's correct.
So,
do you think President Trump should have to show his tax returns?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm not really concerned with it. All I know is that he's making America great, and that's all I need.
I'm not like the Democrat Republic. I just be like, if there's nothing to hide, then why wouldn't you be like, here, there you go, there's my returns.
Do you think that's a waste of taxpayer money?
We've wasted enough money already. I think we need to get on to business.
They're wasting time. They're wasting money. Absolutely.
Do any of you care about seeing the president's tax returns?
Your president's tax returns? As
Yes.
a Scottish person? No, not particularly, no.
We now give you bagpipes and drum for Trump's taxes. Take it away. Well, it's not the president's tax returns, but it's pretty darn awesome. Thank you.
That's kind of what I expected you to find. It's kind of a 50-50, and I think I don't think it would necessarily move the needle on how people feel about President Trump because they're really more focused on the issues. But I think when some people just say, you know what, put it out there just to get it off the table so we're not talking about it, that transparency component.
And, that one person, the one woman said, it's not constantly required. That's an important part. By the way, there's a statement we have from President Trump's attorneys, right, because the Ways and Means Committee has subpoenaed the IRS to release to them. Here is what the president's lawyers say, quote, if the IRS acquiesces to Chairman Neal's request, it would set a dangerous precedent. Once his Pandora's box is opened, the ensuing tit for tat will do lasting damage to our nation, pointing out, obviously, that we're
then where does it stop? I want to see Nancy Pelosi's tax returns. I want to see everybody's tax returns. No, really. I mean, where does that end?
They'll argue that
She's
those
the
people
Speaker of the House.
They'll argue that those people aren't running for president, and that if you're running for president, it takes on a different.
She's third in line for the presidency.
True. I mean, you can debate this all day long.
I want to see your tax returns.
I want to see Pete Hegseth's tax returns.
Dave, I want to see your tax returns. I want to see everyone's tax returns.
Email
Round
us.
them up.
Email us at friends@foxnews.com and let us know, do you want to see the president's tax returns? How important is it to you?
And we got some headlines for you. That is important to us. A fan is arrested after tackling legendary pro wrestler Bret Hart during his speech at the WWE Hall of Fame. The moment was briefly captured during the live broadcast from Brooklyn, New York. Fans posted video of the chaotic scene as wrestlers and security took down the attacker. Hart was not seriously hurt, thankfully. It's unclear why the man went after him. He is charged with assault and trespassing. The ride-or-die wife of convicted drug lord El Chapo could face legal troubles of her own. Federal officials are investigating her for conspiracy, according to the New York Post. A trial witness accused Emma Colonel Isporo, hopefully I didn't mess that up, of helping coordinate construction of the mile-long tunnel El Chapo used in his infamous 2015 Mexican prison escape. She has not been charged with a crime. The mistress of Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos files for divorce one day after Bezos finalizes his divorce from his wife of 25 years. Lauren Sanchez reportedly making her split from husband Patrick Whitesell official on Friday. It was revealed in January that Bezos and Sanchez had been dating for months. The two reportedly met through Whitesell. And Joe Biden gets the SNL treatment after a rough couple of weeks.
If you're really going to run in 2020, you have to change the way you interact with women.
Okay, the last thing I ever want to do is offend anyone.
Well, and that's why we've brought in a consultant who handles sensitivity training.
Former cast member Jason Sudeikis portraying Biden taking part in sensitivity training. The likely 2020 presidential candidate has come under fire accused of inappropriate touching. Those are your headlines.
Yeah.
Sometimes SNL is funny. It's like hit or miss for me.
Well, they should do more on both sides because there's a lot of funny stuff. There's a lot of material.
Biden is full of material.
More than just
I wonder how their
yes, he is.
I wonder how their ratings were with the games. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Probably
I
rough.
wonder how the weather is, Rick, right
When's the last time you watched an entire Saturday Night Live?
10 years.
Time.
10 years.
I
How
mean,
about you?
this show
I
is
used,
a little bit harder.
Yeah.
No, but I used to
when you work
watch
Sunday morning TV.
To your point, I used to watch it, and I don't really.
Yeah, or at least maybe the first half, because the second half, like, come on, something funny at least. All right, here's your temps as you're waking up this morning. Getting better across parts of the Northeast. Still very nice down across the South. Big storms yesterday went across parts of Texas, cut through areas of Louisiana, caused some flooding in areas of Texas. This is kind of what's left of it, but some of these storms in Arkansas this morning are severe. And down across parts of South Texas, seeing some big storms fire there. Also in across parts of the northern plains, right now we have some rain. Obviously, we've had all that flooding across parts of that area. We have a big storm headed there later on this week. Say by Tuesday through Friday, potentially looking about 1 foot to 1.5 feet of snow in places like Minneapolis. Pete, I said that for you to see if you're paying attention. 1.5 foot of snow in Minneapolis.
Really?
This week. Yeah.
Oof.
There you go. Around Minneapolis.
My parents were hoping to move on.
Yep, nope.
You know, the lawn, things that, nope,
Yeah,
not
but
going to
it's
happen.
beautiful. Snow in Minneapolis is beautiful. It's not like snow in New York. It's not dirty snow. It's
Snow in April is never beautiful.
Yeah, never.
like snow in Minneapolis.
There, no snow.
All right, well, Democrats saying sorry a lot lately.
Sorry I didn't understand more.
I am not a tribal citizen. I am sorry.
But I'll be much more thoughtful going forward.
David Webb says they're becoming the party of apologies. He joins us coming up next. Welcome back. Couple of quick headlines. Former Auburn football coach Tommy Tuberville is running for Senate. The coach announcing he's running as a Republican for the Alabama seat, once held by Jeff Sessions. If he wins the primary, he will face Democratic Senator Doug Jones. And legendary college basketball coach Bobby Knight makes his first public appearance at Indiana University since his firing nearly 19 years ago. He was seen riding in a golf cart before watching a Hoosiers baseball game from the press box yesterday. Knight was fired in 2000 for an alleged confrontation with a student. He won 11 Big Ten titles. He's a legend at Indiana.
And a friend of the president. We saw him on the campaign trail. All right, Democrats in a sorry state pushing to distance themselves from the missteps of the past.
To the women in our campaign who were harassed or mistreated, I apologize.
I am not a tribal citizen. I am sorry that I extended confusion.
Not only will I not say that again, but I'll be much more thoughtful going forward.
Sorry I didn't understand more.
David Webb hosts Reality Check with David Webb on Fox Nation, and he joins us now to weigh in. Welcome, David.
I'm sorry. Am I supposed to be here? I just thought I'd get in the spirit of things, you know.
What do you think of the apology tour? Are you excited for it, or?
Absolutely. Yeah. Look, here's what's going on in the Democrat Party. They played identity politics, right? They've told everybody where they belong, and now they're caught in their own trap. If you have a perceived offense from the perpetually offended, what do? You apologize, but then the logic doesn't always follow through. Joe Biden gets attacked because they want him out. The more progressives, let's face it, it's a political hit job. Yeah. So they're going to go after his behavior, perceived or real, just like the way they went after Kavanaugh during the nomination process. And now it's good to see it turned around on the Democrats. Frankly, it's political pandering. It's insulting to the voters. And if I were Democrat voters, I'd be a bit insulted if you think I'm not smart enough to think through for myself.
Does it work? I mean, is this when you apologize to your base running in a primary, is that something that gains you favor?
You know what? It probably does with a few of the uninformed voters out there, Pete. But for the donors who they really need, for the people who are out there, they're pros at the game. They don't really care that much. They're going to back a candidate no matter what. And if somebody changes a vote because you apologize, I'd ask that voter if the apology is what matters. What about the policy?
Does it matter that Biden apologized, but then he also said, well, but I'm not sorry for my actions because they weren't wrong? Like, do you pretty much have to do full throttle, full tilt apology in this political environment?
Can I shake your hand? Oh, no, I'm not going to. I'm going to pull it back. That's what the Biden apology is. It's, I'm not really going to shake your hand, but I'm going to pull back. It doesn't matter. He's trying to walk both sides of this, and it's not going to work.
Now, President Obama was in Berlin, gave a really interesting speech. Take a listen to what he had to say about the left going too far. I want to get your reaction.
I do worry about sometimes among progressives in the United States, maybe it's true here as well, is a certain kind of rigidity where we say, I'm sorry, this is how it's going to be. When that happens, typically the overall effort and movement weakens.
President Obama, the moderate David, has emerged. Amazing.
Political scam. Progressive political scam is what this is. Look, Obama was smart. He learned how to play the game in America to win the election and then re-win election, appealing to people in the center. But the progressives, just like the apologists, are committing a political scam. They pretend to be center. They pretend to care. Let me tell you something. Fine. Buy them the political bullets. Buy the popcorn. I'll watch this any day of the week. Let them form a circular firing squad. Let them go after each other. Let them apologize, not apologize. Because the American people, especially people in the center, people in the Midwest, people frankly, even in the urban centers are saying, you know what, guys, I'm not buying this anymore.
Do you think, though, that he could be sincerely sending a message to the AOCs of the party saying, listen, you may have these ideas, and I, may have had these ideas as well, but you got to get elected. You can't get elected.
Of course he is, because the one thing he knows is when to get elected. Look, he took his white grandparents and threw them under the bus in Philadelphia, but before that, they mattered to appeal to the Midwest. That's why I call it a political scam. They're not going to run on policies. They're running back to identity politics and appeal.
Exit question. Why hasn't Obama come out and said anything about Biden?
That's a good question, because wasn't this his best friend, Joe? Standing there at the podium, but back to the political scam. If you look at all of this, Biden was a smart pick for the Obama team to win the election, but the relationship, you can tell the relationship's good, usually between a president and a vice president, based on what happens after they leave office.
Good point. All right, thanks, David.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
All right,
I apologize.
You are not forgiven. Have you heard about this guy? His entire diet consists of only drinking beer during Lent. No food at all. And get this, he's lost more than 30 pounds, Jedediah.
But Pete, is that really a good idea? The doctor is in next.
It's also National Beer Day.
President Trump vows action on border security in his efforts to stop illegal immigration.
I said I was going to close the border. It's gotten so bad. I said, we're closing the border. We have to take care of ourselves.
35 years on this border, I'm worried, really worried where this country is going. Where the heck is Congress?
A suspect wanted for the shooting of a Texas state trooper is in custody. The trooper is fighting for his life following surgery for 2 bullet wounds.
Among progressives in the United States is a certain kind of rigidity. The overall effort and movement weakens.
How important is it to you to see the president's tax returns? It's not really important. I believe he should shut it.
Not at all. Really important.
Hold on, did I hear a whistle? Wow. We got a foul call. He got all 3. Virginia is heading to its first ever national championship game.
Good morning, Jed.
Happy 6 a.m.
Happy 6 a.m.
Happy 6 a.m., but it's not so happy.
Yeah.
A story that earlier this week I was in Texas, in the Edinburgh, Texas area, and that is why we start this morning with a Fox News alert. A Texas state trooper is fighting for his life after being shot near the U.S.-Mexico border overnight.
The suspected shooter is in custody after an all-out manhunt.
Aisha Hasni is in our newsroom with the latest. Aisha, good morning.
Good morning. Yes, that officer has not been named just yet, but Texas State Police say he was shot twice Saturday night while he was investigating a car crash. Now, we don't know where those bullets hit him, but he isn't stable yet. As there was a massive manhunt for him after the officer was shot, with law enforcement agencies sharing his picture all over social media. He was taken into custody from the Texas Department of Public Safety that Godinez is a U.S. citizen. He is a resident of Edinburgh. Griff, Jed, Pete.
Aisha, thank you.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Reminds you that the job they do on or near the border or anywhere with law enforcement incurs a ton of risk. So we're thinking about them today.
That's why they call it the thin blue line.
Absolutely.
Every day.
All right. Well, the president yesterday reacting to ongoing developments on the border, and he took to Twitter, as he often does, talking about the threats that are being faced at the southern border. This is what he had to say. He talked about the redeployment of more agents to the border. He said, we've redeployed 750 agents at the southern border, specific ports of entry, in order to help with the large-scale surge of illegal migrants trying to make their way into the United States. This will cause traffic and commercial delays until such time as Mexico is able to use its powerful common sense immigration laws to stop illegals from coming through Mexico into the U.S. and removing them back to their country of origin until Mexico cleans up this ridiculous and massive migration. We will be focusing on border security, not ports of entry. And Griff, yesterday we were talking a lot about he's giving Mexico a chance to address this, but once again doubling down, we wonder whether or not they will.
When you have a new president of Mexico, López Obrador, and he came in very pro-immigrant, and now he seems to have realized the situation, the seriousness of it, the emergency, the crisis, whatever you want to call it, and so he's saying, listen, we got to do some more, so we'll see where that goes. What's interesting, though, is when I was talking to President Trump, I said, do you feel like the Democrats are finally coming around to realize this is a crisis any way you cut it? Well, it doesn't appear the Democrats are there yet, and of course that's what he told us. However, the media seems that they may be coming around a little bit if you look at some of the headlines. Now, this is the Washington Post. It reads this: as Trump wrestles with immigration, experts say his policies have made things worse. Politico: yes, there's a crisis on the border, and it's Trump's fault.
Oh, so wait, let me get this straight. First, there was no crisis. It was manufactured. Now there's a crisis, and it's all Trump's fault. Do I have
Correct.
that right?
You have that correct.
Okay, so I'm following this well. Thank you, media, for clarifying that. I think it's important to note, too, that Trump has made headway with Mexico, and also, and I said this yesterday, giving credit where it's due, because even though it's been just a few days, having some support from that side, it shows the willingness of the president to say, you know what, I took a tough stand. I did threaten to close the border. People pay attention to that. When you play tough, sometimes people say, you know what, he's not kidding around. And I think it's important to show, that he appreciates
well,
that.
And it's a tough spot for him, because when you make the border your emphasis, but your laws haven't caught up to that emphasis, then you create an environment where people rush for the border to get in while they still can before those laws change. And there was a Sheriff Mark Daniels, how do you pronounce that county?
Daniels, yeah.
Daniels.
Cochise County.
Cochise County, Arizona, says that after working the border for 3.5 decades, he's paying close attention. Watch.
35 years on this border, I'm worried. I'm really worried where this country is going and where we're at. I'm worried about our communities. I'm worried about our families. I'm worried about Americans. I'm also worried about CBP, the Border Patrol agents, our HSI, all the folks and the sheriffs that are standing united with them that are watching this crisis that's not being solved, it's not being taken care of. And the support from our president, we truly appreciate that. But where the heck is Congress? Why is Congress not stepping into this? Because we do.